And we are live with the great Steve White from the land up above in Canada. How are you doing today, Steve?
Excellent. We're doing excellent, Matt. Thanks for having me on the show. This is fantastic.
Buddy, we're going to have a lot of fun. And you know what? You brought up an extremely awesome idea because I wasn't sure what we were going to talk about today. And you wanted to talk about how to catalog comic books. And that is near and dear to my heart. But before we get into this, I want to acknowledge the chat out here. And I'm seeing some great people out there. All right, Seth, and he's acknowledging Doug Bratton. Let's see. There's Chuck. Chuck was great on Friday night. Oh, look at that! What you have in there or in your hands?
Yep. Well,
Chuck did a great job on the comic book crowd. But tell people what you're showing there, Steve.
This is the Isolation. See, I lost my head now. See, I've forgotten what it is. Shut it out in the it's called an ash can? Yeah, that's it. That's the word. That's the word. Shout it out when you know the answers. I know the answer. It's an ash can because I love these things.
Those things are cool. That was limited to 1 in 100.
Yeah.
Well, Boar right here. He's eating lasagna, okay? And I did see Jackson Roykirk, and there he is. The Jackson Roykirk. This guy's got a really cool YouTube channel, and if you like Star Trek, definitely check it out.
Cool.
Hey, here's you know what? We used to call him Young Matthew. Matthew Stivoletti isn't so young anymore, but you know what, buddy? It is great to see you. Is a great fan of Reggie Klex from out in the Bay Area. There's Doug. There's Trev. Yeah. Here's my buddy Joe, Anachronic Comics. And you know, Joe, I could see you being a big lasagna fan.
Yeah.
And Pretty Fly for a Filipino guy, another wonderful wonderful guy from out on the West Coast. Actually, for some reason, him and I always had these late night, 3 o'clock in the morning chats where we would be on Instagram and then just, messaging each other back and forth. And you know what? This is one of those people I can't say enough good about. Tina, you gotta love Tina out here. Okay. She's, the OG as they call her. Mm-hmm. All right. I think I'm pretty much caught up. I'm not sure if we have any more, but so anyhow,
they'll join in.
They will. But Steve, tell us why you were thinking about cataloging and how that's going to play into our conversation here, or our video. I'm sorry.
When you were asking me to come on the show and you were thinking that you were going to noodle about figuring out what we were going to talk about, I just happened to be taking a bunch of pictures of my latest haul that I had from my weekly pulls and then inputting them in. I started thinking about it, going, hey, what about talking about the way people catalog their collections? Maybe not just the physical books, the way they put them. Well, we can talk about that too, but also how they organize them. People use those apps, or if they cheap like me and don't want to spend any money, I spend huge amounts of time on Excel and decided to build my own basically a whole collecting system there that has every one of my books, what I paid for it, what the grade is, and what the current value is.
And there are a lot of people they know. I love having an organized collection, and you can see the drawers that I have in the back. It is so nice to be able to look up, make sure you have a comic book, and then you can walk right into your drawers or walk, right over there, open up the correct drawer, find that book within literal seconds after starting to find it. There's a satisfaction of having an organization to your comics. I would be so frustrated if I had to leaf through long box after long box looking for a book that I knew I had that I could not remember where it was. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, organizing and cataloging is such an important part of the hobby. When did you start organizing your comic books?
Probably just before the big boom hit. When the COVID and everyone got shut down, I was just getting back into it then, because how it is with us collectors. We're kind of in it and then out of it, then in it, then out of it. And that's when I sat down and thought, you know what, I need to figure out a way to not only just organize the collection, but also for my family or whatever, if they ever, when I'm gone and they want to liquidate my collection, it's easy for them. They don't have to try and figure out where the books are and how much they're worth and everything. So I wanted to make it easy that way. But man, is it time consuming?
It is very, very time consuming. Hey, Bulldog. You brought up something. Comic book collections can be a burden on family members. Like, we don't want to talk about, what's going to happen after we go, but you know what? There's a reality. We're not going to live forever. Eventually we have an expiration date, just like the vegetables in a refrigerator. And nobody wants to give their family a burden. People want to give their family, if you put a lot of time, a lot of effort, you search for keys that you hope go up in value.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they don't, but sometimes they do. And you want your family members that are going to get your collection to be able to benefit from your hard work. So I absolutely think that is a wonderful reason to have an organized comic book collection.
Yeah, just so long as they can get into my Excel files and know where they are. That's why I like your idea where you've got them printed out and you have them in a binder too. So that's something after I get my collection more or less all inputted in there, I'll do the same thing, start printing them out. But I like how you got the files in there. It's nice. I've taken it a step further though than that. Not only do I have the list in there, I also took pictures of every single book, and it's also part of that file. So when I print it out, there'll be little pictures of each one of the covers of the book. So then they know what they're looking for.
Did you really take pictures and input them in each Excel file?
Yes, I do.
Each line. I
Every
can't lie. I don't go that far, but what I do is I'm a miser. If I don't have to spend money on something, I'm not going to. And there is a free app. And you know what, guys? I wish I had a way to pull it up on screen, but it's mycomicstash.com or something like that. But I just Google My Comic Stash. It is an absolute free, it's not Excel spreadsheet, but it's a free app that you can get, or a free website. You can enter the comic books that you have, and you got to put in, all your information and create an account, but you can search for a comic book and you can, log in that you have that. And this is an Excel file. Please don't get me wrong, but this was an export from that website where I have, each and every single comic book that I have in a collection. And I'll, like I said, I'll export that Excel sheet and it'll show up just like this. It gives me values, the date that it was printed. Now, like I said, I don't have the pictures. I actually think I'm looking at this backwards. I might be, not sure.
When you printed those too, and when you put them in there, does it tell you what drawer that they're located in, the particular book or anything, or what box they're in?
No, and I intentionally didn't do that because I will move books in my drawers as I am putting more books in there. I might start to squeeze and get too many in a specific drawer. And then what I'll do is I'll pull some out of the back, and then I'll put it in the very next drawer and so forth and so forth. So I didn't want to get in that specific because the more comics I get, that comic might move 2 or 3 drawers because they're not all full. I like to keep a space. For the most part, they're about 3/4 full each drawer that's back here. And I don't know. Yeah, you guys can see.
I can see that. Yeah.
Now, I have some drawers that over the years have filled up a little bit more than others.
Right.
But for the most part, I left space in them so that just in case I got too many.
Are they alphabetical?
Oh, 100%. They're
and by publisher, or is it all mixed in?
No, I didn't do that. I started to do that, but my very first book is a number. And what I mean by that, the title is a number, 1602. This was a Neil Gaiman series that, Doug Bratton, he was good at saying, man, I can't stand this series. I went all in on that series whenever it came out back in 2004. And Neil Gaiman, he's a pretty good writer. And it was in the preview magazines, and I'm like, I'm going to buy this, and I'm going to go all in on 1602. And I'm a guy, I like to get as many books in a row and then read it all at once. That way I don't have to
Yeah.
remember what the story was last month. Yeah, so I had a slabbed copy. I have all those. I have multiple copies. Yeah, I read it and I'm like, wow, this is a big waste. This is a letdown. But at 1602, and I have the whole series in there, that's the first comic in the collection because I go numbers and then after that it's alphabetized.
Nice. So that means it's constantly moving and flowing. Do you ever worry about damaging the books doing that, with the constant movement of the books?
Nah, they're bagged and boarded.
Yeah.
It's part of the hobby, moving
that's
them.
true.
Uh-oh, Seth, I'm starting to tease them. I'm not sure exactly how I'm teasing them. But Seth, how am I teasing you? Put that in there. But
Yeah, I
there's a
do the
lot of
same
great
thing with
people
my
in here.
books too.
What's that?
My books are all alphabetized too, like that, but I got them by publisher. So I have all the short boxes with Marvel, DC, Image, and then with the indie books, unfortunately, there's so many of them, I block all them together until I get enough of a title that it becomes its own box, like with Dark Horse and Boom Studios. I've done that. So they've
Okay.
kind of migrated into their own boxes because I have enough to fit a short box now.
Jeez. Okay, Steve wants to know, can you do his taxes this year?
I'm terrible at math.
Well, that I don't know. You're from Canada, so I don't know how your taxes are. I know you guys do them, but I don't know if they're more or less complicated than our taxes here.
I have no idea. I have some nice lady that I take all the stuff to, and then she tells me what I didn't bring her, and I have to bring it to her, and then she does all her magic on that little Google-y machine thingy, and then it prints everything out, and I mail it off to the government, and they give me money, so it's all good.
I told you I'm a miser, and I got mad at paying people to do my taxes, and I find out that they make mistakes. Yeah, I keep all my receipts. I figure out all my business expenses, and I kind of do that myself. But
Yeah.
I do miss the days where I just took it to somebody and then
Yeah.
forgot about it. So anyhow, I do have a story, okay? Because we were talking about passing them down, and
Yes.
I've talked about something in my channel, and I don't want to get in great detail, but I had a near-death experience. And some of you guys in the chat, you've heard this before, but this was very early 2019. I got sick, had surgery, I was in the hospital for most of a month, okay? And as I was recovering, because it took me a long time to get physically back in shape, I lost almost 50 pounds whenever I got sick. But I would sit I have a hallway in my upstairs. And this room here, this room has always been in a house, but it was never finished, meaning it had brown drywall from the 1950s when the house was built. And the original owners, they used it as, I don't know, a junk room. Okay. Like they would put Christmas decorations and, whatever type of stuff. They had a washer and dryer up in here. Like this was just like an extra, utility room, storage room slash. But I always knew because I was collecting comics before I bought this house. I always knew that I was going to turn this room into a comic book room. But I mean, we lived in this house 10 years and I never did anything other than just organize it and put my comics in this room. Well, then, whenever I got sick, I'm like, son of a gun, you know what? I've been collecting for years and all these books are disorganized. And I hadn't organized comics for 12 years. I had comic books. Well, I can show you. I'm a little behind now. But I get mailers about once a month. This is my pull list. And I'm behind right now because I think I have about 6 or 7 of these boxes unopened. And that's what my comic book collection was. And I would open them. I'd put them in long boxes, but they weren't organized. Okay. I didn't have them in order. I didn't have them cataloged. So I went on to that My Comic Stash and I just started entering and I started going through all my comics. I pulled out all the A titles, anything that began with an A. And then I went, and then I'd do it again. I go through B and as you go through each letter, it gets shorter and shorter and shorter. And by the time you get up to M, it goes pretty quick. But I had thousands of books, okay, thousands. And I ended up sitting through it. It took me a month, in all honesty. I mean, and I wasn't there 12 hours a day, but honestly, I'd be working with my collection for seriously 6 to 8 hours every single day. And I'm a school teacher, so it was during summer. I have summers off. I wasn't very healthy, so I wasn't active as in going outside. I cut my grass, and that was about as most physical activity that I could muster. But it was so nice to just have that time. And honestly, while I was doing that, I would bring up my iPad and I would enter things in my iPad, but then I started going on to YouTube videos while I was just trying to find the A's, and I'd go put them in alphabetical order, or the B's or whatever. I started YouTubing comic book collecting, or YouTube searching comic book collecting and comic book videos and stuff like that. I saw all kinds of videos, Steve. I saw some of the names I forget, okay, but like Bueller I'd find, Comic Tom I'd find, and so many others. ETA Nick, I think that was his name. I would always see him, but I kept seeing this one guy that was just super positive, super exciting, and like just very knowledgeable, but down to earth. And I remember watching one of his videos, and the video, he said, I forget how he said the name Galactus, but it was so mispronounced, it wasn't even funny. And I kind of relate to that because, have you ever read a name in a book that you have no idea how to pronounce it, and you just kind of go with it?
Yep. If you're ever into Dungeons and Dragons, all kinds of weird names and that stuff. And yeah, pronunciation of it, they don't tell you in the book.
Nope. Well, I kind of related to that. And that guy was Reggie. Okay. So I just kind of like would keep on noticing his videos, and I would learn stuff. And I'm like, this guy's a regular human being, just like anybody else, trying to figure it out. And I just kept watching his videos. And then eventually I would go on to live streams and stuff, but that all started because I wanted to organize my comic book for just exactly what you said. You didn't want to you wanted whoever was taking it to have an organization to it. And I actually think that was a really cool idea on your part.
Yeah, especially for, family members that might not care anything about comic books. Like my daughter's an artist and she's into this kind of stuff, and maybe she'll inherit it down the road. But my son and my wife have zero interest when it comes to books. So to them, it's just, hey, can we cash this stuff in and make some money on it? And after I'm gone, I'm not enjoying the books. They're not, if they want to sell them, go for it. I don't care.
No,
while I got them here, I'm enjoying them.
Hey, they're for our enjoyment. If somebody else enjoys it, God bless them. But honestly, I just want them to sell it, and hopefully they can maximize a profit off of my little entertainment hobby here.
Yeah. Well, you win some, you lose some, right?
That's the
thing with it. Yes, Dungeons and Dragons.
You say that because, there's names in I've read quite a few of the Dungeons and Dragons books and Dragonlance books. I have no clue how to pronounce some of the lead characters' names.
Yep.
Yeah,
I come up with my own interpretation of it. So, and if it's right, it's right. And then I get into arguments with other guys when, the times that I used to play the game all the time.
And how do you say Raja Ghul? I mean, how do you pronounce that?
Raza Ghul? Yeah, I don't know. Is that the correct terminology? I don't know.
It sounds good to me.
Yeah, sounds right. Okay. If it sounds very dramatic, it's good.
There's Roz, and then here's Trev. He's getting in on it. So everyone here, they can kind of understand. We have no clue how to pronounce something. So I wish I could remember how Reggie was pronouncing Galactus. It wasn't a big deal. It was just, it caught my ear like, wait, that's not how you say that.
Wait a minute. Yeah, that's not right.
I think it was like Galagus or something like that. Yep. Not like that. Right. But so, do you have any tips for anyone as far as cataloging books?
Tips. Oh boy. Yeah.
I know, I'm putting you on the spot here.
Yeah. Well, I found it like you. I found it therapeutic when I was doing it. And What do they say? It's a popular thing in schools to say, how do you eat an elephant? Right, one bite at a time.
One bite at a time. Yeah.
Right. So I mean, if you have a big collection, like when I started cataloging my collection, I never realized how big it was until I started going through every single book, and I'm like, oh Jesus, this is going to take me a while. Not only what really sparked it off was because I needed to rebag and board everything, because you and I were talking earlier about how those atrocious bags from the 1980s, they were like thick plastic. Like, yeah, I don't know how we
If you have them long enough, they're yellow and not clear like this thing is.
And then some of them were welded shut, so you cut into them, and that's really what started me cataloging, because I figured, okay, if I'm going to spend all my time going through these thousands of books, maybe I should, rediscover, read the stories, take pictures of them, and this is a good time to catalog them since I have to go through them anyway. And my LCS was great because they had bargains on like bulk purchasing of bags and boards. So I went in and said, okay, I need like 4,000 bags and boards. So he was pretty cool about that. So I got to bagging and boarding and taking pictures of everything. That took a little bit of time too, taking my crummy cell phone and trying to take pictures and get the angles right. Anyone out there try to take a picture of a slab and not get a picture of themselves? Like, how do you do that and not get a good picture of yourself standing over the slab, right?
You got a good point. Now, Steve, we talked. You have a voice for radio. Can you pronounce Anachronic Comics for Joe?
You have to whisper it, though. You got to Anachronic Comics.
That's exactly how it is done.
You have to do it the OG way, right? Not Anachronic Comics. No, it's Anachronic Comics.
Anachronic.
That's right.
His daughter does the audio for that. And to hear Joe tell the story about how he got her to do it, and it took quite a few different takes, I could see it. It's great family fun, but I do like Joe's introduction whenever his videos start.
Yeah, that CLZ. You have to pay for that?
Yes, it's a great site, but you do have to pay for it.
Yeah, see, I'm too cheap for that, but I guess it has pictures and all that too, eh? I think it does. I don't know. Maybe it has pictures. Oh,
it has pictures. That my comic stash that I was talking about, or stash my comics. I forget which it is. I think if you Google it, you'll find it either way. But it has pictures too. So, and that really helps you if you're trying to find whatever variant you have, because some books, my gosh, they have 20, 50 variants of it, especially the Amazing Spider-Man movies or shows. But check that, Steve, you got it. He's happy how you said it.
Oh, perfect. I like that.
But $12 a year, is that what CLZ costs, guys? Somebody confirm it's $12 a year.
Okay, so that's not too bad, but still. But then you'd have to have the internet and all that stuff.
This is true.
I can see it being good for the variants.
Like this guy, you might not always have the best internet.
That's true.
Hey, Kenneth Bird. Okay, Joe says it's pretty cheap. So either way, I'm a miser.
Me too. So I'll stick with my Excel files and sit there and input it. It's, it gives me something to do. It brings me joy. That's weird. Some people think, that's more of a chore, but I find it actually relaxing when I take pictures of my books and I'm filing them in there. It's kind of like if you ever watched that TV show Dexter, when he had his little blood slides and he runs his fingers across the blood slides. I guess I kind of get like that when I'm putting my books in there. I'm like, oh yeah, this is cool. And, you can see all your collection in one place in one shot, right? Instead of pulling all those books out of the short boxes and looking at everything, I can see it all right there on the screen. If I want to look at a book, boom, I got it.
So, I am not going to lie. When you said how you enjoyed, like had a relaxing time and you're talking about Dexter, I'm like, wait, Dexter's a serial killer.
Yes, he is.
I hope that's not how you pass your good moments away.
Just try to illustrate how, he gets all excited when he's running his fingers down his blood slide. He's got them all organized, all nice. He's into organization too. So,
He definitely is organized. I do like that show. I haven't seen, the last season I never saw. Somebody said it was a dud, but.
Yeah, it was okay. I didn't mind it. It was a
good
way. Hey,
Shadow, how you doing? But I am currently trying to set up a database in Excel. Nice. Steve, who has 2 comic book rooms, He might be able to help you out with that. Now, Steve, whenever you say you have, it's split by publisher. Do you
Yeah.
have like one publisher in one room and another big publisher in a second room?
No, the basement comic book room's got basically the bulk of the collection. This room here, I don't really keep any short boxes except for what Reggie inspired me to have my Oh Sugar box. So beside me, I've got 4 short boxes of my Oh Sugar boxes. But the bulk of the collection is downstairs and it's all mixed. Right, because it's on that lovely concrete floor, so I can put as much weight on there as I want.
It won't
That's
crack.
wonderful.
Yeah.
No.
Chuck Hensey's comment cracked me up here.
We get bored up here, the wintertime, there's snow and there's nothing to do. So
I've seen the movie Fargo. Now that wasn't in Canada, but it was cold. Okay,
it's pretty close.
Yeah.
The wood chipper idea is great.
I think we're going to get shut down.
YouTube rules are being violated.
We're giving people ideas. But so I did see in here,
let's get it back to
that there is the great Doug Bratton in the show, or in in the chat here. So do you have you did show one comic book, okay? You showed the ash can of issue number 1.
Yeah.
And I got some books here too. I got some issue 2 books. Oh, snap. Look at that.
Well, because it's a Matt Woods channel here, we gotta. And you know what I did too? So I don't have to take it in and out of the bag all the bloody time to look at that gorgeous, gorgeous Barry Windsor Smith signature.
Holy smokes. You have, Barry Windsor Smith is hard to get a signature for.
Yes, he is.
He doesn't do them anymore.
He hates CGC, CBCS. Hates getting things slabbed. So
I don't know why he's that against it, but he just is. But
I watched a couple of videos
there, Steve.
Yeah, I figured, you're Conan. That's the only Conan book I think I own. I might have some the annuals and stuff that I picked up cheap, but yeah, that's the one big one. But I like that one's got a special place in my heart because of when it was printed and the month it was printed.
October 1970. Happy birthday.
There you go. October 1970. That's me. So, when I saw that in the book, I went, hey, that book belongs to me.
Now, a great YouTuber and friend of the channel, Rob Boswell, he gave me a file one time, or access, a link and not a file. But the link showed every book that was printed in a certain month. Okay. So if you ever wanted to go collecting your, birth month comic book collection, that link would help you do it.
That's cool.
And in mine, I was born in 76. There's actually only one book out of the list of books I don't already collect, like Spider-Man and Conan and stuff like that. There's only one book that came out that month that I'm looking for, and someday I'll get it. It's just everything's got to be at the right price.
Mm-hmm.
So October 1970, you're a young man, Generation X, Generation X.
Yep, Xer. But that's it with the comic book collecting game. I mean, you got patience. Things will roll around eventually. You always got to have patience with this game and the hunt. And that's part of the charm of it too, like this goes on for decades. Like I've been collecting since 1980. So how long is that? A long, long bloody time. And just like with everyone else, in and out, in and out, in and out, life intervenes. And then you come back to it, and then you're out again. Who knows when I'll get out of it? But right now, it's been like 4 or 5 years. I've been hard going, with collecting. So
yes, well, it's been a lot of fun. I started getting into the YouTube stuff before the pandemic started. And when I say before the pandemic started, I mean like 2 weeks before the pandemic started.
Right.
I started my channel. But I was getting back into it. But it was just, there's a lot of information out here. There's a lot of people helping to tell their part of their hobby. And comic book collecting, and again, this is something I always told. This was something I did for myself. Like, it wasn't something my coworkers, most of them had no clue that I collected comics. My immediate family, meaning like my mother and my brother and his wife, they knew I had comic books, but they had no clue how many comics that is actually in a collection. And I don't know, it just seems to be more acceptable, and not acceptable, but it's just there's a world out there that I didn't know existed because I didn't know as many other people collected comic books as what YouTube and social media, especially Instagram, is letting me know about. And same with you, Steve. I would have never met you
Yeah.
ever. You know, you're up in Ontario, which isn't too far from me. I'm about a 4-hour drive from Toronto, but I probably never would have met you. And you know, right now I've been seeing you on Reggie Collects. You definitely, you and I will talk on Instagram, and so I'm enjoying this bigger world in the comic books.
Yep, I agree. I agree, and that's happening everywhere. Like this, it's the same with me. You know, social media. I would have never met anybody. It's even Wayne. Like he lives in the next town over to me, for Christ's sakes. And I mean, I would have never met him or Mark. And he's up in North Bay, and it's amazing what happens when it brings together. It's almost like the car culture, you know, because I'm a big car nut, and
Okay.
being in the car clubs. Yeah, it's the same thing. You meet all these people going to these car shows that you would have never met otherwise, right? It seems
Yeah.
like a solitary, and comic book collecting was such a solitary thing, you know. It's like, again, yeah, when is that going to come up in a conversation at work, right?
Yeah. It just
Never.
doesn't.
No, not unless you know, somebody's wanting you to introduce yourself and says, you know what, tell everybody in the audience here something weird about you that they would never have guessed.
Yes.
You know, it's like an
And
icebreaker.
that was the only time I think it would ever come up. I was never ashamed of being a comic book collector. It's just it just never comes up in conversation when you're talking to people. Um but I do want to talk about people about isolation. I'm giving a plug to Doug and Reggie and Delia and Adam and everybody else. Um, ooh, okay. You know what? I will not be able to do that today, Bayou Shade, but I might be able to put it in the comments after the video. But anyhow, I want to give a plug out to Doug about isolation.
God's glossy.
Ooh, look at that.
Glossy.
I love that glossy cover.
It's glossy. The paper quality is amazing on these. Like the cover is just incredible.
You know, Marvel and DC and so many other publishers, they can learn a lot from Soldier Publishing. But
They
guys,
can
this is an
suck it.
amazing story.
Yeah.
And here's another foil cover, but this one is signed. This one I wanted to get unsigned because I think for the most part they all come signed. So I wanted that what's the word I'm looking for? I wanted a
Virgin cover.
manufactured variant so that I could say, hey, I have more variants than anybody else. So I connived that unsigned one,
Excellent.
cover A. But this is actually a legit good story, and I'm really enjoying it. I cannot wait for issue number 3 to come out.
Yeah.
You can buy issue number 3 and issue 1 and issue number 2 on reggiecollects.com. And Tina, can you put that link in the chat for us, please? But it is well, Bor, what is that? This is a variant. I do have a secret variant, and
That's cool.
this is not the secret variant. It's one of the variants. I definitely have it, but I'm not sure where. But
Ooh,
this
it's an old
has one
sticker
of
roll.
the first 25 stickers, which is really kind of cool. So if I ever send this to CGC, I think I'll get a green label.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't have a green label in a collection. I never really wanted one, but I might send this in and just be proud of the green label for what it is.
Send it to CBCS. They probably won't give you any weird label on it. They'll just say, okay.
Yeah, right. It'll just take me a year and a half to get it.
That is true. That is true. My Mad 4 finally came back. She's back in the collection. It's nice looking at her again.
How long did that take you?
14 months. Yeah, it was 14
Jeez.
months. Yeah. It was ridiculous. But
Hey,
that's
DB.
why I didn't send my Conan off. I was going to. It was in the works. It was at my buddy's place. And then up here in Canada, we had in Oakville, that was where the CBCS place where you sent your books to, they shut down. So my book luckily didn't get, lost or sent off. So it ended up back in my collection. So I just left it. so I haven't sent it off.
Huh. I a couple years ago, I'm getting off topic here, but this is all right. This is just I love the YouTube live stream game because it's just friends having a good conversation. And Steve, you're a good friend, so I'm gonna get this conversation off sidetrack, but I think it's a good one. A couple years ago, CGC was having some big issues with the wait times were extended, sometimes well past a year. And everyone was like, hey, this is CBCS's chance to shine.
Yeah, it was.
I felt CBCS just completely dropped the ball
Yep,
of an
they blew it.
opportunity to pull market share away from CGC.
They blew it. They blew it hard.
Yeah, and now people are like, oh, CGC is the best way to go. And they're trashing CBCS, where 2 years ago it was completely opposite.
Yeah, especially since CBCS had the verification program, so you could get all your books that were signed by people that are dead now, and there's no way to verify them. And
Yes.
it was a great way to protect your books, right? That's the reason why I sent out my 2 Mad books, because it was Harvey Kurtzman's signatures. The guy's been dead for a long time, and I wanted to both protect the book and also get it, verified that is indeed his signature. So, I'm pretty much stuck. The only place you can go to is CBCS, because CGC doesn't want to go down that rabbit hole, and for good reason, right? Because it's can cause you a lot of trouble.
Well, CBCS got in trouble there with
they did.
one. I forget the YouTuber, and I don't know if he was just trying to cause controversy, but he intentionally sent a forged signature to CBCS.
Yeah, to see if they'd catch it.
And they didn't. So, and I can't tell you for sure that it was a forged signature, but he says it was. So, hey, who knows? I have a James Tinian IV book that I got signed by him at a local comic shop near me. Nice House on the Lake #1. And I'm thinking about, hey, look at that. But
got a couple of signatures.
Yeah. But where did you get that at a comic shop, or?
No, I went to the con last year. It was Fan Expo, where I met Wayne for the first time, and Mark, and James Tynion was there, and I yapped with him, and of course the whole crew was there. I got Simmons and Martin Bueno. What was his name? Yeah, Alvaro Martinez Bueno, great artist. And not only did I get them to sign, but I took pictures of them holding my books and signing my books, so that I have the actual book, and then I have them on the back autographing the book.
There's your evidence. That picture on the back of the book is absolutely awesome.
See, there's my closet 1 in 50, and there is James Tynion signing the same book in the same spot.
Huh.
I have evidence.
You do have evidence. That's actually pretty cool. That, you know what? If I ever go get mine verified, I need to go print off a picture, because I don't have a picture of him signing it, but my son took a picture of us. And actually, I think my son is in the picture. I think somebody else took the picture, but I need to do that, because that's a really good idea on how to organize them.
Hey, you just ask them. I mean, the artists are great. Like, I had a great conversation with James when I was talking about Nice House on the Lake and how sad I was going to see Walter and the whole thing end. And he looked at me and says, he's not going to be gone. And I went, oh, spoilers, inside information. He's going to be back. He's going to be in another book. Because I positively loved this story. It was fantastic, well written. Like, everything James Tynion seems to touch is like gold. It's like fantastic writing.
Oh, the guy, I mean, I am in love with the whole Slaughterverse, or whatever you want to call it, okay? But that little universe that he made, and he's still creating, I just can't get enough of it. It is so well written, so rich, and it's just new, so that I got caught with that series from issue #1, where I just had to keep reading and reading. Now I'm upset that not enough come out.
Yeah, and the downside to it was just how long it took for the next issue to come out. That was a bit of a drag, right? Because then you're waiting and waiting, and then you start to lose interest, and then all of a sudden, bang, the issue comes out, and you're like, okay, now I'm back in again.
And that has happened to me. But speaking of artists and creators, next, Andover, Delaware. Okay, Doug, put in the LCS.
Yes.
But he is doing a signing with Delia Gunderson and Adam. And you're speaking of mispronouncing names. I think it's Schrimner, but I'm probably mispronouncing his name. But I think that they are going to be at that signing. So, Doug, go ahead and put the LCS. But here's something that him and Reggie put out. Here's a script for Isolation #1. Now, I know Tina has one of these. Nice. And I got the 10th one. So I got 10 out of 10. There was only 10 of these.
Would you say Tina's got number 2?
I believe she has number 2. And I'm not going to go through it all, but it is broken down scene by scene, panel by panel. And I've leafed through this. I'm not going to lie, Doug, I haven't read it all, but I cannot wait to go through this script for Isolation. This is something completely new. I've been reading comic books, honestly, probably between my older cousins. She used to read them to me and other books, probably the late 70s up until now, but I've never seen, the script for a book like this.
Neither have I. Which one is it? Is that number 1?
Yeah, it's issue number 1.
Okay.
Yeah, I just never seen anything like that. So it was just a completely different experience. And I am seeing right behind you, Steve. You know what? It is so cool that people go from Matt Woods Comics to this little known YouTube channel, Comic Tom. Okay, so that's a pretty good upgrade from watching that Matt Woods guy.
I don't know about that. The very first episode that I watched of yours is when you were building those cabinets.
Oh, that was way back.
It was, and that's what kind of got me inspired into, figuring out some kind. I'd love to have some kind of cabinetry, like we were talking earlier about Lee Atkins. Oh my God,
Lee Atkins!
That man is on another level when it comes. If you're in there, Lee, well done, brother. Well done. My God. If you guys go on to Discord for the Reggie Collects channel and check out in Room Showcase tab, he's got pictures of his room, and it's next level.
It is completely next level. He's got cabinets built by the Classy Collector, who does just a great job. I think it's a husband and wife team that they just absolutely do great work on making cabinets. Now, I'm going to answer this question here first, and then we'll talk about these cabinets a little bit. But Jackson, do you keep your raw signed books separate or combine with other raw books in the series? I just put them all with the raw books. Okay. Now, I'll make a little annotation that it was signed, but I don't keep them separate. And honestly, that might not be a bad idea to keep them separate.
Yeah, I keep mine separate. They're all on my wall, so I can look at them all the time.
And right here is Doug Dewey's Comic City in Dover, New Jersey. I think I said Dover, Delaware, but I knew it's Dover, New Jersey. But
go get your book signed.
What's that?
Go get your book signed.
Well, I won't get the one book signed because I want that manufactured unsigned variant, but I have a lot of others that I could go get signed. We were talking before the show about drawers and cabinets. Okay.
Yeah.
The ones from the Classy Collector that Lee Atkins has in his comic book room. I mean, those are, living room furniture grade cabinets. Okay. Those things look spectacular. I wouldn't care where they were in the house, but whenever I was building mine, I'm on my second story. Okay. In fact, my living room is directly below me. And I had two criteria. One, I wanted to build them kind of cheap because I didn't want to spend a whole lot of money. I told you guys I'm a miser.
Yep.
But also weight. Okay, I used plywood, rough plywood to build these because if I would have built it out of medium density, MDF board with laminate on it, it would have looked a lot nicer. But man, it would have been 3 times as heavy as these are. And I don't want my comic book collection coming down on top of my head whenever I'm downstairs watching television with a wife. So we made sure we made them out of raw wood. And honestly, they look all right in the comic book room. I wouldn't want to put them in the living room or in a common area in the house, but somehow in here with the stickers on them and the comics on the front, it actually looks pretty dope. So I'm kind of
does.
a big fan of them.
I do like the look. I like how you got the clear plastic and you kind of see that first book, and you're just standing at the front of them. They look great. And I like the idea of, cheap. So that way you can spend all that extra money on more books, important things.
Bingo. Yes. And I designed them. They are 4 across, but just 1 high. They're actually, I have 12 different individual cabinets, and each one of those cabinets, is it 12? Yeah, it's 12. And each one of those cabinets have 4 drawers in it. Now, I designed it with a cut list so that I can make it out of 1 4x8 sheet of plywood, and also the drawers. Now, the drawers are MDF board, no laminate on it, but I can build all the drawers, the actual drawer itself, out of 1 4x8 sheet of 1/2 inch MDF board. So there was a little bit of, trying to figure out the best way to go about it. So, because I didn't know that I'd build them all at once. I figured I'd do 1 or 2 at a time and just, keep on adding to it. But so there was, a little bit of craftsmanship trying to figure out my dimensions and what I needed. But,
Yeah, I like the look of it. Like I said, that was the first video I saw, and I like the fact that you nested it perfectly so it fit on 1 board, so you could figure out what the cost would be, minus the plastic. I forget what you did. What did you do for the plastic thing for the front? Or was that acrylic or something?
Yeah, it's an acrylic sheet, and I was able to, use a glass cutter and cut it down to the size I wanted. But Home Depot carries them, Lowe's carries them, any hardware store carries it. Just plexiglass, is all it is. But I just wanted to be able to see, because I was a real big fan of okay, we have all these long boxes that are just white cardboard that
they get pretty boring when you look at them. You need to color them up.
Exactly right. They're just boring to look at. And there's a lot of incredible art in there that never gets to see the light of day.
Mm-hmm.
So I made sure that I put a filament on my windows so that UV light couldn't get through it. And then I put lights over here, and I have the same filament over top the light, on the light, so that UV rays don't hit the comic book art. Because I don't want it to bleach and fade. But I'm like, I want to see this incredible art that I've been collecting for years. And you know what? I'm glad that is on front so you can see it.
So what's the UV sheet? Where did you find that for the window? That's something I got to do for this one right behind me. It would be nice if I had a UV protection so I could actually open the curtains and not fear, like Dracula, the light, it's going to burn everything.
Yeah. I ended up at Lowe's, I think. In fact, I remember the Lowe's I bought it at. I bought window blinds, Venetian window blinds that light doesn't get through. They're wooden. And I bought those. So, that does a lot to keep the UV light. But even a window behind it, I put that filament. Just a hardware store. It's nothing special that you have to order or anything.
Okay.
Ooh, look at this.
There he is. There he is.
Yes. Our great Canadian buddy. And you know what? He just got an awesome comic book, Foom, number 14. Now, Foom stands for Friends of Old Marvel. Love it, okay? And there's a lot of history with the Foom series. Like the very first Wolverine was not in Incredible Hulk 180, but it was in one of the Fooms, okay? And people can argue back and forth, but there's a lot of cool history and stories. But Steve, this is my Foom 14.
Nice. There he is, right there.
And Mark, there's a story behind this book, okay? I have collected every single Conan appearance, every single thing ever put out by Marvel in the English language. And what I mean by that, there's a lot of collections in Europe and across the world that I don't own, and I probably never will and could care less to own, but I do have all of them from Marvel, all the English speaking ones. But for years, there was one book that kept me from completing my collection, and that was this Foom 14. I knew I needed it. I knew all about it, but I just held off. And I mean, I held off for 15 years on buying this thing.
Wow.
And I think what I did was I knew I needed it, but as soon as I bought it, then my hunt was over.
Oh,
And
no.
my holy grail of my comic book collection would have been found. And I was like, I don't know what else I'm going to do. So it took me a long time to, pull the trigger and buy this book. But I ended up finding it at a super, super good deal on eBay because they don't make a whole lot of 9.8s from the 70s. So I was kind of happy to have that one.
And that's a conversation for another show there. Now you can start talking about goals, and when you finish a run of something or a collection, it makes you sad, and now you got to figure out what you're going to do next.
One of my most watched YouTube videos, I think it's called I Think I'm Done Collecting Comic Books or something like that. And I feel bad because as soon as the video started, I clearly state, yeah, I'm not really done collecting comic books. I moved on from a goal, and I ended up achieving all the goals that I had years prior. Well, I got a lot of views because I think everyone assumes, oh, why did this guy quit collecting comic books? I think I might have been deceptive in the thumbnail. It is what it is. But in that video, I did talk about, our goals morph. We finish one and then go on to another one. Tina, what is your goal now? I don't know. That's a good question, Tina. I'm not really sure. I'm kind of in a holding pattern as far as comic books go. Hey, I don't see them, but I see people talking to Genome Presents, who was a guest last week.
Nice.
A great guest.
Yeah, he was.
So, Steve, right here, I want to talk to you and ask you, do you mind telling everybody in the chat here or in watching on playback how Steve White got into comic books, his origin story?
Oh boy, this goes all the way back to the 1970s. That last millennium ago.
A whole 1,000 years ago.
That's right. Christmas time. Up here in Canada, you guys still got them down there in America as these stores called Kmart. And Kmart's, even back in the 70s, had those 3-packs. And Christmas morning, coming downstairs, grab that stocking, and right curled in there, pull them out, was a 3-pack of Walt Disney comic books. And that's what started it all right there. I got right into the comic books, and I went, wow, these are the greatest things on the entire planet. I need more of this stuff. So the collecting bug got me, and that was in the late 70s. And then around 1980 is when I started collecting, you get the mowing the lawn money and delivering the newspaper money. And I started having my own cash so I could go out and start buying my own books. And it just started snowballing from there. And it probably went on for a good decade, all through the 80s, until I discovered cars and girls. And then, of course, that comes to a crashing end.
Real quick, right?
Very fast. And then that's when it ebbs and flows, right? So I was really into it through the 80s, just collecting everything. But, a lot of them when I started out was those little Archie books. Remember those little digests that came out?
Oh my gosh, yes.
I have a ton of those bloody things. Those and the Mad magazines. Those were my two big my guilty pleasures, I guess, is what they were. I had all my
Seth
comic
right
books.
here. Seth is a big Archie fan. He has a big Archie comic book collection.
Yeah. Oh, and some of those are actually worth some good money now. That's crazy.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, the Mad magazines, and then spreading into I know I have an older brother, and he was collecting at the time too. So the only time I could get into Toronto was if I would hitch a ride with him, because I was too young at the time to be going in there by myself. So then I discovered comic book stores, and not just any comic book stores, but the Silver Snail and some of these really big stores that had massive keys in there. And that really opened up a whole new addiction for me when I realized I could start getting the Mad comic books, which is where I've got my first ones, which I thought I would never ever own. And thanks to the eBay machine and social media and stuff, probably in the early 2000s, that's when I grabbed up the rest of my Mad comic book collection. in one of
Oh,
those times where things were ebbing and flowing, where life wasn't intervening and you could get back into it again. So it's like everybody else, in and out, in and out, in and out of it. So
but
that's kind of the origin story.
I like it. I want to say hi to Shop for Comics. Listen, he does a great thing on Instagram where he will turn comic book YouTube creators into cartoon characters. I am
Right.
loving the Shop for Comics verse, if you will. But so do you have every single Mad magazine?
Yeah, I've got the comic books and the magazines like 1 through 50, and then it's all sprinkled all the way up to like 600 and something or whatever they are now. I think DC owns them now. So DC's still putting out books, but they only do like reprints of anything. Everything is no, there's no original information in there. It's all just reprints from old books. But
Now,
yeah,
when I was a kid in the 80s, I used to buy Mad, but I also bought another book. It was Cracked. It was
yeah,
almost the same type of format, and I
pretty
loved
much.
it.
Yeah, there was a lot of knockoffs at the time. Yeah, and Cracked was really good, Severin. And funny enough, Wayne has #1 signed by Severin that he
Oh,
actually brought
really?
over to my house so I could look at it. Yeah, it's a ratty copy, but there's his signature right there on the cover. And I'm like, wow, that's like a special piece right there.
Huh.
Yeah, I've got a bunch of Crack magazines too, but Mad was the near and dear to my heart because that was my first money that I had, and I was able to buy something with my own money, and that's what I started collecting because I really enjoyed those. And the comic books were pretty cheap at the time. They were like what, a buck and a quarter, something like that, through the
Yeah.
80s. Wish they were like that now, but
Oh my goodness. That would help my wallet just a little bit.
oh,
But
absolutely.
yeah, Doug Bratton has some work in Mad magazine, so you might have some of those.
Yeah, I gotta find it. I think he told me what issues that he couldn't remember exactly what issues that he had done the work in, but yeah, they're probably in my collection somewhere.
Huh. But,
I'll have to pull them
yeah.
out and find all that stuff and then stick it up on the wall, right? And actually get him to sign it next time when I actually see him, if I come down to the Garage Con.
Or in
Knows?
Dover, New Jersey next Saturday.
Yeah, not gonna happen.
Not gonna happen. I was hoping to get there, but
Yeah, they keep us locked up in here in Canada, so
oh really? You guys still are locked down pretty good.
Uh,
So wait, if I go driving up to Toronto, will I be allowed across the border?
oh yeah, you can get across the border. That's not a problem.
Okay. Okay. Because
I
I
just
know there
need it.
for a while we weren't allowed.
Yeah, I know it was stopped for some time, but no, everything's fine now. I just don't
Yeah.
travel much. Yeah,
Oh
see,
yeah.
Mark, we gotta talk, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, drive
Garage
down,
Con's a
fly down.
blast.
I don't know. It's not that
Now,
far of a drive, really, is it? From
how
Toronto
far?
to South, where are we going? North Carolina?
Oh yeah, but it's like as far south in the state of North Carolina as you can get.
Okay.
So for me, it's about an 8 hour drive, slightly more than 500 miles. And for me to Toronto, 4 hours at night, probably 4.5 hours during the day. So yeah, just because of increased traffic. So it would be a drive
Oh
from
yeah,
Canada without a doubt.
that'd be fun. We'll have to see
Yeah,
what
it'll be good.
happens.
But Steve, we're gonna wrap this up here. I've absolutely enjoyed, talking with you. We're wrapping it up not because the conversation's dying. I'm loving this, but we're hitting that magical point of an hour. Joe from Anachronic Comics turns to a pumpkin at an hour and 15, I think he said. Well, I'm kind of close to an hour. So
Yep.
anyhow, do you want to tell people where they can find you on social media?
Yeah, I'm just on the old Instagram machine, Steve HR Hooligan, and that is it. I mean, I'm on that Facebook thing, but I think that's like very antiquated nowadays when you tell people you're on Facebook.
I don't even have a Facebook, so I wouldn't even tell you if it's antiquated or if that's the modern age because I just have no idea. But every now and then I'll look on Facebook Marketplace for to see if anyone's selling comic books near me. But hey, it's great talking to you, Steve. Everyone in the chat, I want to thank you for just being absolutely awesome people. You had awesome comments, and just a good time hanging out. But we
Yes.
will see everybody next Sunday. Oh, look where the ash can. We'll see everybody next Sunday at 7:30. So, all right. See you guys later.